Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm glad you're here with me today because we've got a really big story to talk about. It's one of those moments where law, politics, and power all collide in a way that makes you stop and think about where the country is headed. So grab a coffee or just sit back because this one is going to make you ask some deep questions about who really holds the power in America. Just this week, a federal judge in San Francisco, Judge Charles Breyer, handed down a ruling that could completely reshape how presidents use the military here at home. He declared that Donald Trump's decision earlier this summer to send thousands of National Guard troops and even several hundred Marines into Los Angeles was flat out illegal.
Why?
Because it violated the Posse Comitatus Act, a law that has been around since 1878 to keep the military from acting like a national police force. Now, let's pause here for a second. Think about this. Do you believe the President of the United States should ever have the power to send federalized troops into American cities to control protests or enforce laws? Or does that cross the line into something that feels a little too authoritarian? In this case, Judge Breyer said the line was absolutely crossed. According to his ruling, these troops weren't just standing guard outside federal buildings. They were in the streets, controlling traffic, setting up barricades, and even assisting immigration enforcement during the protests. In plain terms, they were doing police work. And under the law, that's a big no-no. California Governor Gavin Newsom had been fighting this deployment from the very beginning. He argued that the state never consented to having its National Guard federalized and that the president essentially took away state control. Imagine being a governor and watching your own guard units taken over by Washington against your wishes. How would you react? Newsom took it to court, and now the judge has sided with California, saying this was an unlawful overreach of federal power. So, what does this mean going forward? For one, the ruling doesn't order the troops out immediately, but it does say that enforcement begins September 12th unless the Trump administration successfully appeals. And we already know Trump and his team are preparing to fight this hard. Their main argument has been that the president has broad powers under Title 10 of the U.S. Code and possibly under the Insurrection Act to step in during emergencies. But Judge Breyer made it clear this wasn't an invasion, this wasn't a rebellion, and California law enforcement was not incapable of doing its job. So, in his words, the justification just doesn't hold up. What's really interesting here is the ripple effect this could have. Trump had also floated the idea of sending troops into cities like Chicago, New York, and Baltimore under similar reasoning. But with this ruling in place, any future moves like that could face immediate legal challenges. And that raises a bigger question. Should the military ever be used as a domestic policing tool, even in moments of civil unrest? Or should that always remain in the hands of local and state authorities? Governor Newsom called this ruling a win not just for California, but for every state that values its independence. And honestly, this case goes beyond politics. It's about constitutional boundaries. If a president can take over a state's military forces whenever he wants, what stops the federal government from bypassing governors altogether in the future? On the flip side, supporters of Trump argue that this ruling ties the hands of the federal government, making it harder to protect federal property and personnel during chaotic protests. So you have to ask yourself, where's the balance? Legal experts say this ruling could become a defining precedent for how far presidential power can stretch. And if it does make its way up to the Supreme Court, we might get one of the most important decisions in decades about the role of the military inside our own borders. For those of you who like digging deeper, you can check out detailed coverage on Reuters, read reporting from AP News, and see the political reactions covered by The Guardian. But now I want to hear from you. Do you think Judge Breyer got this right? Or do you think the president should have wider authority to use the military inside the country if he feels it's necessary? And more importantly, how would you feel if it was your city where troops suddenly showed up? It's a fascinating and honestly pretty unsettling debate because it touches on freedom, safety, and the balance of power in ways that impact every single American. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you found this breakdown helpful or thought-provoking, make sure to hit that like button, share this video with friends who love staying informed, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next big story. Until next time, take care, stay curious, and I'll see you soon.